Hi, I'm David Esrati. I'm running for Congress. If you live in Montgomery County, Greene County, Clark County, in the wonderful state of Ohio, you got two choices in November. Mike Turner, who's been congressman for 20 years, who doesn't talk to anybody anytime unless you're bringing big checks to give him for your military funding or for, to help your company out. He gets money from Big Pharma, from the military industrial complex, and the home builders. Me, I've been around for as long as Mike has on the political scene, and yeah, I feel partially responsible for him becoming mayor of Dayton, because when we were both on the campaign trail, they got the two tall white guys with hair confused. That won't happen anymore. I lost my hair. So, you are here to find out about working across the divide. That's what I put up as a subject. And if you want to comment or have questions or anything else, feel free to text in a comment and I will get to it. Or if you just want to say hi, I will acknowledge you. Thank you very much for watching. So what brought this on today was there was a opinion piece in the New York Times today. And honestly, the New York Times is worth every penny. I read it every day. And then I read it again in the Dayton Daily News 2 days later. Edited, shortened, worse headlines. But there was a story today with a video that was produced talking about the relationship of a doctor, a guy named Mark Rosenberg, who was leading the CDC's research on gun violence. This was back around 1995, the mid-90s. And he was running into problems with a congressman, a guy named Jay Dickey of Arkansas, who believed exactly what the NRA said, which was, we can't spend money on researching gun violence and gun deaths. That's not disease. It's just, you're the Center for Disease Control. And so the Dickey Amendment was passed. And that basically stopped for over 20 plus years until Sandy Hook, which shook this country down to its bones about why we shouldn't be doing and funding research to find out what causes gun deaths. Now, in yesterday's paper, New York Times that is, they also had a breakdown of that whole myth of good guy with a gun, what actually happens with an active shooter, which I absolutely hate. I prefer the term domestic homicidal terrorist. Okay, that's what we should be calling them. Active shooters, too clean. Or make it domestic, homicidal domestic terrorist. Doesn't matter, switch the words around. Anyways, so they had research, and most of the time what happens is the gunman shoots himself, or police shoot him, or he escapes. The good guy with a gun thing is a myth. There's also quite a bit of information debunking the idea that the people that do this are all mentally ill and it's a question of mental illness. Well, if it's a question of mental illness, why hasn't Congress made all health insurance include mental health coverage? And why do we still stigmatize people who have mental health treatment? And why is it so expensive in this country? So, at one point, Dr. Rosenberg had to go to Dickey's office, and people had warned him, whatever you do, don't go talk to him. Just drop the stuff off and head back out. And one of the aides said, Mr. Dickey's in the office, and he'd like to speak to you. And Rosenberg went in, and they started talking. And turns out, what did they talk about? They talked about their kids. They found common ground. And they kept talking. They kept talking for a long time. In fact, when Dickey died, Rosenberg was the guy who gave the eulogy. That is a powerful statement about finding common ground. And you won't see that out of our post-Trump Congress. It broke their backs to find a few extra people to pass very, very minimal gun control legislation in the Senate. People think that this donating thing, this negotiating thing, this political doing what you're supposed to do as a politician, as a statesman, is difficult. It's really not. The first thing you have to do is realize we're all in this together. All of us, the entire planet, humankind. When you stop thinking in terms of red states and blue states and stop thinking in terms of this state and that state, or this country and that country, and realize that we're all human and we all have a shared common experience. We were all born, we grew up, we learned things, we've done things, we've eaten things. The choice to kill another person, the choice to go to war, the choice to buy a gun. And guns, yes, some are for hunting, but the guns we're talking about aren't for hunting anybody but people. Trust me. The whole decision process has been legitimized in this country by this idea that we're going to somehow protect ourselves from our government. And yet, Americans killing Americans is way more than the government killing Americans. And all this brouhaha about, more legislation, more laws or rules, or, what are we going to do? It was interesting because last night I ran into somebody who wanted to talk about abortion. And I've run into this a few times. And it's a horrible subject to talk about on the campaign trail. Because realistically, as a congressman, it's out of my hands. But, the whole leakage of the Supreme Court decision on Roe v. Wade has brought it to the forefront. And the guy says, we're not going to agree on this. And I said to him, even when a young girl is raped by her father, you don't believe that, oh no, it's not the child's fault. And he started going on and on about, this child should be born. I said, okay, if we care so much about the child at less than 12 weeks, why don't we care about the one that's 12 weeks old after birth? And why is 1 in 5 why are 1 in 5 of American children food insecure? Some of them housing insecure. What good is it to have babies if we can't take care of the ones that are already alive? And access to birth control, teaching about birth control. If you really are worried about, stopping abortion, the best way is not to get pregnant. And making birth control available, readily affordable everywhere. And we found some common ground. Because, believe it or not, he didn't believe in abortion, but he believed in birth control. And when you get down to it, America also has a serious problem with what happens to women having children. We have one of the highest infant mortality rates and death rates of mothers in this country, of any industrialized country, because we don't have universal health care. Honestly, we can do so much better, but we have to reframe things and we have to find the common ground. If we care about kids, born or unborn, let's make sure they have a life where they live a life where they're healthy, where they're fed, where they have a future to grow up into something other than being put up for adoption, put into the the welfare system. It's not all peaches and cream getting adopted. We need to really look at what we expect government to do for us. Mike Turner's all about, taking care of the base security, national security. I consider national security to include me being able to go to the grocery store and not have to worry about getting shot, or going to the movies, or having my child go to school. That's security. Or getting ill and needing to go to the hospital and being worried about losing my home, declaring bankruptcy because I got sick. Or if I have something like diabetes that I can never switch my job because I have a pre-existing condition. What kind of freedom is that? Somewhere we need to start talking about finding common ground in DC and working for the goals and objectives of helping Americans. I see I got a few viewers. You want to sign in and say hi, ask questions, I'd appreciate it. Anyways, if you get a chance, I put a link in the comments down below to the story in the New York Times link. I hope the video is available. And the title was, it was really a love story, how an NRA ally became a gun safety advocate. Because later in Dickie's life, he came around, changed his mind. His widow's on the tape, in the video, talking about how Rosenberg changed his position on that. And that is an incredible thing when you can get someone to change their position. One of the things that a lot of people don't know about me is there have been some times for this neighborhood that I've lived in since 1986, where I've been the point person trying to bring back congeniality amongst our community. There was a time when people were very upset that Daybreak, which used to be on Wayne Avenue, was going to join two buildings together. Because Daybreak was a place for runaway children who were all criminals, and they'd steal from us, and there were all these troubles, and drugs were being dealt out of there, none of which was true. I said, has anyone gone to Daybreak and talked to them? No, I'm afraid for my life. So I go there expecting to get my head split open with a baseball bat. And I walk in, I meet a guy who's, I still know to this day, his name's Fred Allen, and he welcomes me in, and next thing you know, I'm talking to Dave Nearing, the director, and I'm saying the neighborhood has these concerns. And not only did I manage to ease the relationship between the neighborhood and Daybreak, but I also helped Daybreak think their plan through, and they, instead of doing a simple bridge between the two buildings, they did a complete switch of their plans. They moved the entrance to the rear. They tore down the garage. They just spent $15,000 outfitting as an office. They built two new additions in the back. Beautiful change. We lived together, the neighborhood and Daybreak worked together for a long time. And then they moved out. And that building now is being rehabbed into apartments. And it's going to be real fascinating. Another problem was later we'd had some people running for president of the neighborhood, and they had gotten the neighborhood so divided that there was actually talk that people were stuffing ballot boxes. Like one candidate was paying people to come pay their membership so they could vote for him. And the meetings had gotten contentious and run long. And so finally I ran as president, became president for 2 years, which is all I needed to do to calm things down, bring order to the meetings, use a timer, a big Gray Lab darkroom timer to restrain people from talking too long and condensing things down, and things became much more civil. Finding common ground requires creativity, it requires understanding, it requires compassion. And those are things I've never seen out of Mike Turner, and you haven't either. So if I don't have any questions or anything else, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 4 p.m. We'll have another subject, and we will discuss things. Hopefully there'll be more people watching, listening. And in the meantime, I hope you do take a chance to go look at that article and see that video if you can, because it was really a powerful short film. Really amazing. So, I'm David Esrati. Find out more at electesrati.com. You've seen it on screen. If you feel that this is worth even $3, please go to electesrati.com/donate. Just remember, Mike Turner's minimum donation's $500. So, thank you very much. We'll see you tomorrow.